So, Gary, let me try to clarify very quickly what I was trying to get at in that two-part video series. I was reading Ernst Mayer's description of evolution, and I was commenting on his claim that evolution can be understood without invoking any kind of teleology, which means purpose. Um, he made some qualifications in regards to whether or not there's any way of seeing progress in evolution as a trend towards complexity, and so he did qualify a little bit, but there was that part, that sentence where he said flat out, evolution is completely non-teleological. So my claim is, if that's true, and human beings are animals and part of nature, obviously, then human rationality and consciousness and freedom and responsibility and the legal system and politics and everything we consider to be part of the human cultural sphere is an illusion. It's impossible. It's all based on what the neo-Darwinists refer to as the selfish replicators housed in our bodies, or our survival machines, um, selfishly trying to pass themselves onto the next generation. And that's all that we are, it's all that any other organism is. That's the picture that certain reductionistic versions of Darwinism and evolution are telling us. Um, I don't think it's true that evolution is understandable or explainable in completely non-teleological terms. Um, if you talk about adaptation, you're already implying some form of purpose or drive that organisms have. Um, but my feeling is that unless we root purpose and teleology and consciousness right at the very beginning of life, there's no way to derive it at some point between that beginning and human beings. And if we do so, it's just an arbitrary marker that doesn't really uh, it's not really valid, because why would we start consciousness at human beings? There's obviously this evolutionary continuum, and we are connected to every species that's ever existed on this planet genetically. So there's a continuum. There's no sharp distinction between culture and nature. If culture is, certain behaviors that are inherited, lots of animals have culture. Um, so my argument was that if we view evolution as a completely purposeless process, then human existence is just as purposeless, because there's a continuum there. So we have to root purpose in nature, in evolution. Not that it's as complex at the simplest level of nature as it is for human beings. Plants don't have foresight. They don't have that type of purpose, or that complexity of consciousness. But there is some type of purposeful urge at the beginning in the simplest life forms that complexifies through evolutionary history, arriving, or not arriving. I mean, human beings are just one stop along a way that's continuing, but arriving, at least at this point, at human beings with this very complex, um, intense form of consciousness, which has evolved, developed from the original germ of purposeful, sentient behavior that we can see in uh, a single-celled bacterium swimming up a glucose or sucrose gradient. Um, that's what I'm arguing. That evolution is a continuum, and unless we root purpose in it from the beginning, nothing we consider human is real. It's just an illusion. We're robots, and we're determined by our genes. Um, you can't have it both ways. You can't say evolution is this blind process ruled by selfish genes, and then say human culture is somehow different. It's not. Even if you're talking about memetics, memetics are just the same selfish gene theory applied to ideas instead of molecules in our cells, but it functions the same way. It's just as blind a process, just as mechanical, just as robotic. That's not a basis for, you know, considering yourself responsible for your actions. Um, so hopefully you understand where I'm coming from a little better now. At some points in your response, I felt like you were not, you hadn't understood exactly what I was saying. So hopefully it's clear. But I appreciate your responses certainly, and maybe in another year and a half of this, we'll come to some kind of agreement. Uh, but even if we don't, it's been fun.